All right, today we're diving deep, like all the way back to the very beginning. We're going to explore the story of the first human and the first prophet, Adam. It's a story that in so many ways defines where we all came from. So let's just start with the big question, right? Who was the very first man to walk the earth? The answer, of course, is Adam, and his incredible story is really where our own story begins. We begin with creation itself. This first part of the story is all about a divine act, a huge test of obedience, and, this one single choice that would literally change everything for humanity forever. So, picture this. After creating the entire universe, Allah, which is the Arabic word for God, fashioned a figure from clay. This was Adam. But for 40 years, he just remained this lifeless form. And then, Allah breathed his spirit into him. With a single sneeze, bam! Adam came to life, instantly aware of this brand new world. And right away, we get to the first big test. Allah commanded all the angels to prostrate before Adam, as a sign of respect. And the angels, who were made from light, they did it, no questions asked. But there was one being, Iblis, who was made from fire, and he flat out refused. His whole argument? I am better than him. You created me from fire and him from clay. Talk about pure arrogance. Well, for that act of defiance, Iblis was banished from paradise. And from that moment on, he became known as Shaitan, the adversary. Filled with rage, he vowed to spend the rest of time trying to mislead humanity, the very beings he blamed for his downfall. So get this, from day one, humanity had an enemy. But, despite this new enemy lurking around, Adam's life actually begins in pure perfection. He's placed in this incredible garden, a paradise where there's no hardship, no pain, nothing. And life for Adam in this paradise? It was beautifully simple. Think about it. He had total freedom, surrounded by all this abundance, with just one single rule. One prohibition: don't eat the fruit from this one particular tree. That's it. But even in a perfect place like that, Adam was lonely. So while he was sleeping, Allah created a companion for him, Hawa, or Eve, right from his own side. And together, they lived in this state of perfect happiness, just enjoying all the wonders of the garden. But remember Shaitan? Yeah, he hadn't forgotten his promise. This next part of the story, this is the turning point. Not just for Adam and Hawa, but for all of us. It all comes down to a single act of disobedience. So years went by, and Shaitan saw his opening. He came to them, whispering all these temptations, weaving these clever lies, trying to convince them that the forbidden fruit wasn't a big deal. And tragically, they listened. They ate the fruit, and in that moment, they committed the very first sin. And the effect was instantaneous. That perfect happiness they do? Gone. Just vanished. And in its place came this flood of awful new feelings. For the very first time, they felt pain, a deep, deep sadness, and this crushing sense of shame for what they'd done. And with that shame came this shocking new awareness. Their innocence was totally gone, and they suddenly realized they were naked. Can you imagine the shock? They were so ashamed they just started scrambling to cover themselves with whatever they could find, leaves from the garden. The punishment for their choice was absolute. Their life in that perfect garden was over. Adam and Hawa were cast out of paradise and sent down to earth to start a new and much, much harder life. So just like that, their whole world is turned upside down. They now find themselves in a place that isn't defined by ease and abundance, but by struggle, by effort. Life on earth was a real struggle. Suddenly, they had to build their own shelter, they had to work the land just to get food, and it was here that their family started. Hawa gave birth to their first sons, Qabil and Habil, who you might know from other traditions as Cain and Abel. And it didn't take long for the struggles of earth to creep into the family itself. The very first generation born outside of paradise would face the first great human tragedy. And it was fueled by the exact same things that caused their parents' fall: jealousy and pride. So here's what happened. A conflict came up about who the brothers should marry. To sort it out, Adam told them each to make a sacrifice to Allah. Habil, the shepherd, he sincerely offered up his very best lamb, and his sacrifice was accepted. But Qabil, the farmer, he offered his worst crops with a really bad attitude, and his offering, it was rejected. Well, Qabil's heart just filled with rage and jealousy, and he threatened his brother. But Habil's response? Wow, it's so profound. He refuses to fight back, basically saying his fear of God was way greater than his fear of death. But Habil's piety just made Qabil even angrier. He struck his brother down, committing the world's first murder. Afterward, he was just overcome with remorse and had no idea what to do with the body. Then he sees two crows fighting. One kills the other, and the winner digs a little hole and buries the dead bird. Qabil watched this, and following their lead, he performed the very first human burial. And that brings us to the final chapter of Adam's life. It's a story filled with immense grief, the burden of leadership, and passing on wisdom to all the generations that would come after him. I mean, look at his journey. Adam's long life took him from the perfection of paradise to the tragedy of being expelled, and then the absolute heartbreak of watching one of his own sons murder the other. Before he died, he appointed his other son, Seth, to be his successor and guide the family. And when his time finally came, he passed away peacefully, surrounded by angels. Adam grieved for both his sons. One was lost to death, and the other was lost to the whispers of Shaitan. And the legacy he left for all his other children was this simple, powerful warning: beware of your adversary, and always, always obey God. And that really brings us to our final thought. This ancient story of creation, temptation, a fall, and then the long struggle for redemption on earth. It isn't just about the first man, is it? It's really about a fundamental choice that every single one of us faces. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. How does this story of that very first choice, the one between obedience and temptation, continue to show up and shape our own human stories, even today?